Welcome back to the 9th, I believe, episode of Real College Reviews. I'm here with my good friend Peter. Peter, take it away. Introduce yourself.
What's up, everyone? I'm Peter Murray. I go to Marist College. I play Division I lacrosse there, and I'm going to be a sophomore, and I major in finance.
Awesome. You really check all the boxes. Finance major, athlete, Marist College, which is a great school, and I guess we'll just dive right into the questions. As a campus, right, I toured it when I was looking at colleges, I think, 2.5-ish years ago now, and it was very beautiful. From a purely aesthetic standpoint, do you like walking around Marist?
Oh, it's beautiful. You have a bunch of brick on the buildings where it's all like nice old medieval brick. It's so nice. And then obviously Marist is right on the Hudson River, so you could even walk all the way down, and obviously it's not very you're not really supposed to, but you can jump right into the river if you really wanted to. But during finals week, it's nice to go down there and kind of calm down a little bit because it's nice on the river. There's only about 5,000 to 6,000 undergrad there too, so you can kind of walk to everywhere. You don't really need to drive. There's not really a lot of buildings off campus, so it's nice and centralized too.
So you said Marist, 5,000-6,000 undergrads. It's not small. There's definitely schools that are smaller than it, but it's a pretty mid-sized school. So really, what's the distance if you're on point A of campus all the way to the furthest end, point B? How long would it take you to walk?
Point A to point B. So so the finance building right now where I am, or the business building, is being reconstructed. So they actually bought an office building off campus.
Oh, really?
So funny or not, a lot of my classes were there last semester.
Yeah.
So I'd say the walk from my dorm to there would be about 15-20 minutes.
And that's the furthest you would walk?
And that's the furthest I'd walk.
So really not that bad at all?
Not bad at all. Like for my 8 a.m. classes, I'm up at 7:15, quick shower, and then head right over,
Yeah, and I'll get to the 8 a.m.s in a little bit because that's very interesting that you brought that up. Very hot topic with especially kids going into their freshman year of college. But you talked about there's not too much off campus, at least academic-wise. Marist, if I'm not mistaken, it's in the city of Poughkeepsie. Do you ever do anything in Poughkeepsie, or do you really just stay on campus?
Really, where we go out wise, like social aspect, we go out to Poughkeepsie. There's a lot of places in Poughkeepsie where we can go out. So for me being on the lacrosse team, we have the lacrosse houses. There's 3 of them. So those are in the city of Poughkeepsie. And, sometimes Poughkeepsie gets those bad stereotypes, but where Marist is, it's a good area. There's good areas of Poughkeepsie, and there's obviously not so good areas
like
of
every other place.
Like every other place, but I haven't seen too many bad things. Everything's been good so far, knock on wood, but, it's all been good over there.
So, really, you feel safe walking around Poughkeepsie. Obviously, you're probably with a group of guys or girls.
Yeah.
I know you roll, Peter. But, you're not feeling unsafe or scared walking around Poughkeepsie.
Never. I'm always feel like I'm safe.
You talked about the lacrosse house, which I've heard about for a lot of sports, both, officially division-related, Division I sports, Division II, whatever. The teams have the houses, but even for club sports, too, they have houses like that. Is that a normal thing for every Marist sport?
Yes, so really it's the juniors and seniors that are kind of allowed to live off campus, and what it is we have a junior house, and there's about 12 to 13 boys living in that junior lacrosse house. Mm-hmm. And then right down the road, there's a senior house. And we now, with the whole COVID rules, you bring back the 5th years and things like that.
Yeah.
So our senior house is pretty cool. There's a huge driveway. And what it is, it's 2 houses that share the driveway.
Oh, really?
So it's 2 separate houses. They all fit. There's probably 10 bedrooms in each one.
Yeah.
So it fits a bunch of kids. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
And say for someone like myself, really a normal college student, not another Division I, any sort of college sport. If I was just a normal student at Marist, is there anything for me to do on a Friday, Saturday night if I want to get out of my dorm rooms or just hang out with my friends somewhere off campus?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Obviously, Marist is a big bar school, so there's certain places where everyone goes, but off campus wise, the lacrosse house will have things we have a bunch of events and stuff like that, especially in the beginning of the year to get everyone acclimated to everything.
Yeah.
So we have things like that, and everyone's welcome. It's never just sports kids. It's always even in those lacrosse houses, I think this year there's 3 to 4 kids that don't play lacrosse.
Do they play any sport?
They don't play any sport.
Really? And they're allowed in?
Yeah, because you make a lot of friends, and that's what I was trying to work on this year, making friends other than the kids on my lacrosse team. And you make friends, and sometimes you need spots for houses, and so do they, and it kind of all works out like that.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a really good way of putting it. bars, obviously you don't know from experience, but in Poughkeepsie, at least Marist College bars, do you have to be 21 to get in, or can you kind of slide by if you're not of age?
Sometimes you can kind of slide by. There's some that are like very strict about it, and there's some that are just like typical college bars, things like that.
Yeah.
But for being like a Division I athlete, you don't really get that much of a social life compared to what a normal student would do. But we always end up figuring out what to do on like the weekends or after a big win or something like that.
I'm sure you guys do. I mean, how could you not celebrate after a big lacrosse win? But you talked about, you just previously brought up making friends in the first semester. How did you go about doing that? And then was it kind of a challenge because you had commitments for lacrosse?
So what happened is we're in a dorm room, or we were in dorms, and we were in a dorm called Champagne Hall.
All the lacrosse kids were there?
All the lacrosse kids.
Okay.
But the thing about my lacrosse class is there were only 6 kids in my lacrosse class.
Oh, wow.
Coming up because of COVID, because of a bunch of kids came back for our team. But I almost liked that better because all of our rooms were next to each other.
It's a tight-knit group.
And we were actually in our own, like, distinct hallway. Like, there were 2 doors.
Oh, it was like a lacrosse hallway.
Yeah,
almost.
It was like a lacrosse hallway with our own bathroom. We got to leave
cool.
all of our stuff in the bathrooms. So on the first day, we would all text back and forth. Once our parents moved us out, we all went into one of my friends' rooms, and we just like became like boys. It was crazy. And then with other kids, you start to go out and you start meeting kids from other sports.
Yeah.
And then you start meeting just like normal kids. You start having classes. Like we start class right away. We moved in on a Saturday. Class started Monday.
Oh, so it was, I know at Syracuse, a lot of other schools, it's like a week turnaround. You guys really kind of jumped right in.
We get thrown right into the fire, yeah. But it was honestly good because obviously, like, I'm a very well-spoken person, so I always like to go up to people, introduce myself. You never know who's who, like, nowadays.
Yeah.
But it was nice. And then you get, like, those group projects. You end up meeting friends of friends, and it all kind of ends up working out. But it was a little stressful meeting other people that weren't on the lacrosse team.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to figure out everyone on the team first and then their friends as well. So it was kind of a little challenging.
Yeah, but something interesting that you don't really get at Syracuse or other big schools you've had on, like Delaware, Virginia Tech, meeting friends of friends through group projects. You said only 5,000-6,000 undergrads. Do you kind of find that you're seeing the same people around campus a lot, or do you really meet new people all
Definitely.
the time?
I mean, you always are meeting new people because like 5,000 to 6,000 is a lot, but especially with classes, you're taking classes with the same majors and things like that, and people have the same interests, so you're kind of seeing them around. Sometimes it's fun, like seeing like new people and meeting new people, but the word gets around about a lot of things at Marist because it's so small.
Yeah.
We always sometimes say it's almost like high school in a way because like you'll hear some drama about something and like it'll just go through everyone's friends back to someone else. But you do end up seeing the same amount of people because it's not as big of a school. But in a way, I sometimes like that because you don't have to juggle so many names and things like that.
Yeah, I definitely think there's pros and cons, especially, and I feel like it would allow you to get, acclimated and comfortable a little bit, quicker. Did you see that? Like, maybe if you went to a bigger school, it would have taken a little bit longer to get comfortable?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would have took a while because at a bigger school, you have these designed college towns. Like, I'll say, like, Penn State, for an example.
Yeah.
Penn State had that college and they built the town around that college.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the college just got thrown right in. And I think at places like that, it's a little harder because you're constantly going to different spots, different frats. You can go to a sports house. Like it's very different. And I never really wanted that big of a school. I wanted to be able to walk around, especially with lacrosse. I wanted to be able to balance it all.
Yeah.
And I guess going to a big school like that would be pretty tough to figure that out.
Yeah, because I was about to say, at Syracuse, you'd see all these different people, and it's not even physically that big of a campus like Penn State or Virginia Tech's pretty big, any of those big state schools, but you're still seeing all those different people, and it's like, I have people on Snapchat that I've added, and, I have no idea who they are, from the first week, but you brought up it's a very small school. Again, I don't want to beat that horse till it's dead.
No.
But, your class sizes, do you have lecture halls or is it more so like kind of high school size, 20, 25 kids?
It's more so high school sizes. We do have the biggest class I was in was only about 100 kids.
That's not big at all.
Yeah,
for like a gen ed class?
It's not, it's not that big. But I do like that because I was able to create relationships with all my teachers.
Yeah.
And the thing about going back to an athlete, you miss a lot of class for traveling purposes. So And sometimes you have so much on your plate, especially when we were in like the MAC playoffs. You have so much on your plate with finals and things like that. If you create a connection with those teachers, especially because there's only like 20, 25 kids in the class, like they're very lenient with you and they understand, and it's very good. I also got really sick once, and you're juggling. I had food poisoning, so I'm juggling food poisoning. I'm juggling the second half of this lacrosse season.
Yeah.
And I was able to send all my teachers an email who knew me by a first name basis, and they said, "Don't worry about it. Like, it's all okay." Like, if I was in a 300-person lecture hall,
They wouldn't know who you were at all.
At all, exactly. So I think that's what's pretty cool about Marist and those class sizes.
Absolutely. I know. Again, I keep bringing up Syracuse, but that's the
That's where
only
you
college
go,
I've been
yeah.
to. And I had a class with 15 kids from my major. I know the professor. I have his phone number. Like, that's how well I know him. But I had an astronomy class, 300 kids. Half the class wouldn't show up. The guy barely spoke English. It was fine because I could care less about astronomy, but I'm also not an athlete, so I don't have that excuse to miss class. But I can only imagine, emailing him and he's like, "Who even are you?"
Exactly.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, going off of professors, I mean, obviously I could tell that you like most of your professors. At least they were they probably were more tolerant of you missing because you're an athlete. But did you like them all? How hard were the classes?
I did like them all. So actually, I was able to be on the dean's list both semesters, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I also think that you need to almost trust the professors a little bit. I've had a lot of kids who haven't liked the professors I've had, but again, it's all about that relationship you make with them. I made sure I introduced myself on the first day of class. I let them know I was on the lacrosse team and that these are some of the dates I already knew I was going to miss. And they were right away, we built that connection. And so far, I like them all. Obviously, you get those couple that their English isn't very good, or they expect you to know a lot of things that you haven't learned yet.
That's my least favorite.
For example, I never took statistics before. So I took calc first semester, which was easier because we had Mr. Edwards and it was awesome.
The best teacher at James Cobble High School, yeah.
But then I had statistics in my second semester, and I've never done any of that. And my teacher kind of expected us to all know it.
Oh, God.
So I had to teach myself through YouTube videos and a textbook, and it wasn't the best. But once I was able to,
through it at least.
I got through it. Once I was able to get on track, it was all good.
Yeah. So you got on Dean's List both semesters. That's awesome. Did you find it hard to balance out academics and lacrosse? And I want to get more into it later, but just for anyone, because other people have commitments too, right? I'm in clubs at school, obviously, not as big as Division I lacrosse, but same with other kids. I mean, college is a busy time, especially, if some people have jobs, whatever. What is your best advice to balance out academics, social life, and commitments? Forgot that word for a sec.
I'd say make a schedule. In my dorm room, I had a whiteboard with a calendar, and I wrote out my day every day. So I'd write out when my classes were, when practice was, when my lifts were, all of that good stuff. And then I'd write out what homework assignment I would do that day, whether that's one or two. I spent a lot of late nights in the library because that's just how it works sometimes, which kind of sucks. But balancing, it's hard. It takes a while to fully balance what's going on. Especially we were in, which I guess we'll talk about later, but we won our MAC championship.
Yes.
And went to the NCAA championship, but that was during finals week. So we're playing
oh my God.
We're playing the University of Delaware, and we're in the hotel the day before, and we're taking our finals in the hotel.
Really?
Yeah, so it was not the best experience because you're already stressing about so many things, and you kind of need to do all that on top. But I also think about it like everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm not alone, and that's also really good to think about as well.
So definitely building out a schedule. And then also I love the mentality, I haven't heard it before, of especially not only college kids, everyone's taking finals, but on your lacrosse team too. Everyone's going through the same thing, the same battle. I like that too, because really battling alone is a lot harder than battling with a bunch of guys.
Definitely.
Or people in general. Don't want to disclude anyone. But you brought up before, in the last question I asked you, about introducing yourself on the first day to professors. Obviously, you said that made an impact on you. They know your face. They obviously know you're on the lacrosse team and you're going to miss. But, what for a normal student who, again, is not playing Division I or any sort of division athletics, what impact can introducing yourself to a professor have on you?
It could have a huge impact. even when grading papers and things like that, a professor doesn't know who you are. They may not be like, oh, like maybe this kid doesn't try or anything. A professor reads your first name on a paper after you introducing yourself or you finally being on a first name basis.
Yeah.
They're going to actually care about that paper because
good point.
they know that you're willing to try and you're willing to do things like that.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. And I know, as we were saying before, it's very hard sometimes in those lecture hall type classes, but I think if anyone has the opportunity to really get on that first name basis with your professor, it's a very good idea to do. So that's really what I think.
No, I absolutely agree. And I also introduced myself, even those big lecture halls, like, who knows? People remember weird things, including professors. I mean, they're not robots, they're humans too. And office hours too. I know a lot of kids go to those. You probably didn't have as much time to go to those as other people did, but if you're maybe a little bit too scared to go up in front of everyone, office hours are also a great way to introduce yourself.
Or even an email.
Like, that's true too.
At least.
I didn't even think of that.
You could send them an email about maybe where you live, an interesting fact about you, because you're right. People remember weird things. If you remember, say you said you like horses or something, like if someone remembered that and say the professor loved horses too, like, oh, there we go.
That's an instant connection.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're making some great points, but I kind of want to transition into more Marist specific questions.
Sounds good.
The dorm rooms, I know you had your little lacrosse hallway, but the dorm rooms in general, like, were they nice, big,
I'd say hot when in the summer.
So you didn't have AC?
Didn't have AC. A lot of fans. Me and my roommate Vinny probably had about 5 fans in the room at once.
Yeah.
We're on the first floor though, so it wasn't that bad.
The heat didn't rise.
Heat didn't rise. Sort of small, but because all of our rooms were together, one of my friends right next to us, they did bunk beds and they got a futon, so we were always in there.
That's a great idea.
But yeah, I mean, they're big enough, but small enough too. But
yeah, they're dorm rooms.
They're typical dorm rooms. I mean, some of my friends I've seen them have huge dorm rooms. I've seen them have small dorm rooms. Yeah. But I would say Marist is like right in the middle with the average dorm rooms.
Okay.
There's also different dorms that have AC. There's different dorms that are bigger and that are more like suite style. So there's definitely stuff like that.
So it's a big variety at Marist. It's not like one specific size or specific
Very
style.
Big variety. Yes.
Okay. And the bathrooms, are they communal, at least where you were, or are they pod style?
They're communal, but so on each floor there's 2 bathrooms. And they were cleaned every morning because we would always be up to get to practice. So they were always clean, always nice. And we were 6 lacrosse boys in our own bathroom. So you can imagine how that would get. They were always cleaned. The people cleaning it were always respectful. Sometimes we would throw like paper towels out in the wrong garbage or whatever. And they left a nice note for us. They told us
they were
respectful about it. Very. And I think that also goes a long way at Marist. It gives them a good reputation when it comes to things like that.
Definitely. That's the best, is going to sound really odd, best bathroom-related comment I've heard on this podcast.
Really?
I've heard horror stories, not only just from myself, but I had Enzo from TCNJ on. There were some, those bathrooms are probably the polar opposite of what yours were. And that really is a game changer, right? Like if you're maybe not in the best mindset, like you had a long day and you come back and the bathroom's just covered in whatever, it's the worst. It's the worst feeling.
It is the worst. It's annoying. And I mean, the only time I've heard about like bad bathrooms at Marist is like the shower curtains got ripped.
And that's the tiniest little thing.
But the worst thing that really happened, which only happened to us, our room got flooded. So
oh man.
Our bathroom flooded because a pipe broke. We woke up after a Saturday night. Sunday morning we woke up, sewage all over our floor. A lot of things got destroyed. They paid us a good amount of money for it back.
Yeah,
but that was the only bad thing that happened to the bathroom, and we were so mad.
Yeah, I don't blame you, especially all the money that I don't know. I mean, you're different because you play lacrosse, but all the money that college has, especially Marist, it's not cheap.
Yeah, it's not cheap. You can't fix your
You think they'd be able to fix a bathroom before that happens?
Definitely.
But I mean, that does seem like a freak accident. Like, it doesn't seem like it's happening all the time.
It's not.
And at least they reimbursed you. There's a ton of colleges that give you a hard time about that
They didn't
stuff.
give us a hard time. It just took a little while because you
Yeah.
needed to almost validate our receipts.
Yeah.
So you needed to send pictures and then get the receipts. My mom ordered a lot of things on Amazon. So Amazon's easy. You just scroll back to your receipts.
Yeah, it's not like going into a store and paying with cash.
Yeah, so it worked out well for us. But it just like such an unfortunate
Thing to happen.
Yeah.
There's nothing really else you could say about it. Chalk it up to bad luck, I guess.
Bad luck, exactly. Yeah.
Something else that I wouldn't really call bad luck, but bad effort a lot of times is dining halls. You can't really talk about living on campus without talking about dining halls. Marist, I haven't really heard much about their dining halls, bad or good. What's your take on it?
So I've had a weird experience with dining halls. I've gotten food poisoning twice from it.
We're not off to a good start here.
We're not off to a good start. I think their food's very good, and I'm really the only one to get food poisoning from it.
Really?
But when I did get food poisoning, it was
bad?
like I would sip water and throw it up. Like it was really bad. But this year actually they got a whole new dining service. So
What do you mean by that?
so the service that I guess like a company with all of their food and all their produce.
Yeah.
Last year, and I guess there were complaints from obviously me and a bunch of other kids, and their contract ended this summer.
Okay.
So they heard they got a whole new
Oh,
dining
wow.
program, so hopefully that's going to be a lot better.
Hopefully no more food poisoning.
Hopefully no more food poisoning, but the dining, I didn't have a good experience with dining hall, but I know a lot of people that do enjoy the dining hall.
So I guess that's something to look forward to if you're going to Marist, and something to check out. If you're touring Marist or thinking about going there. New dining hall is always exciting, and I think especially for you, Peter, with all the trouble you've run into, I think it'll be a
Definitely.
good thing. How the meal plans work? Like, I know a lot of schools it's unlimited. You have to get that for your freshman year. Is it the same at Marist? Or is it different?
So all freshmen have unlimited swipes. That's what we call it, your card, and you swipe in.
Yeah.
And when you get older, you I don't have that big of a meal plan, obviously, because what happened last year, but I'm campus housing. I'm in like a condo.
Okay.
So I can make more of my own food, things like that. But I know, like, the older you get, the more swipes you don't get. But freshman year, it's definitely unlimited swipes. That's kind of where we lived because our dining hall was in our dorm.
So nice and easy. You don't have to, especially, New York, Poughkeepsie gets cold, especially on the Hudson River. That wind probably.
Wind is terrible.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have to go outside to go to the dining hall. It was nice.
Is that every single dorm room, or did you just get lucky with it?
We just got lucky. So there's there's 4 dorms. 2 of them are connected through like a student center. And one of them, they're both about 100 yards away. The other 2 that aren't connected.
Yeah.
So they would have to walk through like the rain and things like that.
All right. So you talked about the dining hall, just really life on campus as well. But there's a whole another aspect of you as a college student. That's the big elephant in the room. You're a Division I athlete, especially at Marist in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. I got that right,
Yes,
right?
sir.
I did
Yes, you
my
did.
homework. I really just want to ask about the recruiting process first, kind of start at the beginning, right? Well, I guess really, when did you start playing lacrosse, and when did you realize that you wanted to continue this at the Division I level?
So I started playing lacrosse in the 2nd grade, but I also played baseball with it. So
Yeah, it gets hard to do both.
I juggled lacrosse and baseball until the 5th grade, in which I got tired of baseball. I loved to run around. I was a big football guy, and I was always like how football and lacrosse were very similar in the running aspect. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to stick with lacrosse, and ended up being one of the best decisions of my life. But I always wanted to play football in college. I always wanted to be in the NFL. And I realized my freshman year, when I was able to start on the varsity team for lacrosse, that I was good at lacrosse. Like, I never really understood that. And I realized that I could have a future in this sport, and I know how hard it is to play Division I football.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Let's give lacrosse a shot, and it ended up working out for me up until now. I mean, it's all working out well.
I would say it's still working.
Yeah,
I hope it's not stopping anytime soon, and I don't think it will. And the recruiting process, really, when did that start as a high schooler, and how does it work? You know, someone like me never was interested in playing. I'm not gonna lie, never was good enough to even think about playing, a sport in college. So just give me the basic how it works, really.
So for Division I schools, September 1st of your junior year,
Okay.
they're allowed to contact you. So that summer was tough. I'm not sure if you remember, I was in the hospital.
Yes.
I was in the hospital with a stomach bleeding problem. So I'm in the hospital from August till the start of mid-September, right before our junior year started. And I'm getting these phone calls. I'm getting these texts. I was lucky enough to have about like 25 Division I schools reach out to me.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah.
it was a big process. And throughout that, it's hard, it's fun, and it's stressful. Because not only do you have to pick a school, you have to tell everyone no, or you have to tell some people yes, and then you have schools that sometimes drop you because they found somebody better. And my situation was a little tough because we were in an NCAA dead period where
What does that mean?
you couldn't, like our face-to-face conversation right now,
Yeah.
couldn't do that with a coach. So all of my conversations were on Zoom. I had to visit colleges through like their drone tour.
Oh my God.
It was rough until I narrowed it down to about 3 schools. It was Marist, Stony Brook, and Bryant.
Okay.
And I realized I then finally cut it down to Marist and Stony Brook. And me and my parents took one weekend. On that Saturday or on that Friday, I visited Stony Brook, but I wasn't allowed to see the coaches. I wasn't allowed. I had to just go on a tour by myself, and
Interesting.
it was tough. And then we went to Marist the next day, and I went on an admissions tour because that's all I could really do. I wasn't allowed in any of the buildings, but I realized that I liked that smaller aspect of a school compared to Stony Brook, it's a state school. It's a lot bigger, things like that. So I ended up picking Marist. I ended up getting my offer for Marist, I think, a day after. And then I ended up taking that, which was pretty cool.
I was about to say, again, I think it's worked out. You made the right decision. So really, it's a long process. You were fortunate enough. A lot of kids really only have 1 or 2 schools. Look at them. You had, like you said, well over 20, which is
Yes.
amazing. But it's stressful. And obviously, did you look into every school that contacted you? Or
I
did.
did.
You kind of write some off?
A lot of I knew I wanted to play Division I, but a lot of Division II and Division III coaches reached out to me, in which even one of them was Caldwell University, who I live up the street from.
Yeah.
But I was always taught by my parents and my coaches, you need to treat every coach with respect and not blow them off, because you never know. Coaches move around. Imagine that I didn't answer that Caldwell University call, and then next thing you know, he goes to like Duke or something because of that. Like, you never know.
Yeah,
So,
no, you're absolutely right.
So I answered every call. I answered every email. I would also tell them what's going on. Hey, coach, like, I'm getting these Division I looks. I really want to play Division I sports, but if things change, I'll let you know immediately. And they were all very thankful for that, and they all really appreciated that, which ended up being good.
So really treating people with respect, especially really everyone, but coaches, even if they're not what you aspire for, because like you said, and this goes back to even professors too, right? You could hate a professor, but you can't go up to him and just be like, oh, screw off, because who knows? You could have his class when you're a senior or a junior.
Exactly.
I think that's really great to say, just treating people with respect, especially if you're going to be an athlete, not only treating every coach with respect, but the professors, like you brought up before, because you're going to miss class a lot and you need to be on their good side.
Exactly.
You brought up Stony Brook, and you said how that was kind of a bigger school feel, but what else drew you to Marist, both as an athlete and as a student?
So, athletic-wise, we'll start with that. There are 2 players from Caldwell already on there, Matt DeBlasio and Matt Fermo, and I felt that those were instant friends I was able to have.
Yeah.
Instant connections to the team I was able to have. Also, Coach Wilkinson, our head coach at Marist, is one of the best coaches that's ever coached me, and he's always been a man who I've wanted to play for. And now I'm so thankful to play for him. And even our assistant coaches, Coach Dave Scarcello and Coach JD Colarusso, both phenomenal guys. And when I met them, I was like, I love these guys. Like, I need to play for these guys. When it comes to academics, I really liked that. I liked Well, also I like the location of Marist. It's about 2 hours from here. It's not too close, not too far, but it's good enough. It's able for my parents to always come to the games. Stony Brook, you sometimes hit that Long Island traffic.
Oh, yeah. Ugh.
The worst thing on earth. But I just, like, I went to Marist after Stony Brook, and after Marist, I was like, this is the place. This is the place for me.
You know, besides the Long Island traffic, Marist, like you said, it's in a really good location that, you know, I'm not a big Long Island fan. Sorry, anyone from Long Island that's listening, but Marist is in a really good, it's the Hudson Valley region, right? I'm correct with that? And really, it's close to New Jersey, pretty close to the city. You're close to Connecticut, too, which has a lot of, you know, opportunities, really, post-graduation. Kind of going back to not athletics anymore, but more so academics is a question I forgot to ask you earlier on. Does Marist do anything special? Like, what do they have going on if you want to get an internship or, you know, post-graduation getting a job?
So this also has to do with our athletics as well.
Yeah,
we have a lot of alumni from Marist, especially on the lacrosse team, that have very high up jobs and that provide very good internships for kids coming out of college. There's one that works for JP Morgan, who has his like own subdivision of JP Morgan that has had a bunch of people come work for him.
Big company there.
Big company there. There's a lot of opportunities, even through the normal Marist alumni. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of like interview opportunities. There's a lot of public speaking. There's a lot of things like that that provide graduate students with internship and even job opportunities.
Yeah, and that's great. But going back into more athletics, we've gone over your recruiting process and then obviously why you chose Marist. You talked about how building a schedule, too, is key for especially a student athlete, but really any student at college to have any sort of success or structure. But I want to talk about specifically a class schedule because at Syracuse and a lot of other schools, the athletes get first priority. Choosing a schedule by itself is stressful enough. How do you go about, how do you know when to pick classes and how you're going to like have enough time to study and sleep too and have a social life, all that stuff? Just how does an athlete pick his schedule for his class?
It's definitely hard. We have very good athletic advisors that will meet with us and we'll talk about what classes we're going to take, and we get our practice schedule. So I'll do an example for this upcoming fall. We have lift from 11 o'clock to 12 or 12:30 in that hour and a half.
Yeah.
So we can't take any classes that go up to them.
In that period.
We're allowed to take classes that go up to 11 o'clock because we have some like 9:30 classes or like we have some classes like that in which we're allowed to come late, obviously, because there's only so many classes you can take.
Yeah.
And then after that 12:30 slot, we have our practice from 5 to 9 at night, which means you can't take any 5 o'clock classes and you can't take any nighter classes.
Yeah.
So really in the fall, you're kind of stuck with taking the morning classes, which kind of stinks.
Yeah. But,
you know, it's hard. There's not really one schedule that's better than everyone else's.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you prefer. I know I took a summer class this summer, so it lightens the load for me a little bit.
Yeah.
It allows me to take an online religion class instead of a business class.
Yeah,
so
definitely a little bit better.
Definitely a little bit better. It allows me to do that. And I think, as you said before, like game planning and knowing what you're getting into, especially with the help of our advisors.
Yeah.
It's hard, but sometimes you just got to make some sacrifices, especially when it comes to things like sleep. But
you got through it. And obviously, I think lacrosse, it's enough fun where, you know, you feel more alive even if you're only running on a couple hours of sleep. You know, you're doing what you love, really. But you brought up something interesting that caught my ear, probably caught a lot of other people's ears as well. Athletic advisors, are those specific advisors that athletes at Marist have?
Yes. So in the McCann Center, which is like our athlete center, we have a bunch of athletic advisors, and these advisors are sort of assigned to a certain team. We have a guy named Brian for the lacrosse team, in which you have any questions, you go to him. Your grades are slipping, you go to him.
Yeah.
There's also things like mandatory study hall that every athlete at Marist has.
Oh, really?
But the lacrosse team. So I don't have to go to mandatory.
I was about to say, you guys get out of that.
Yeah, I don't have to go to mandatory study hall. But if your GPA, I think, drops below a 2.5 or something like that, you're supposed to go. You have to go to study hall, and he also runs that. But there'll be also times where we just go in and, shoot the shit with Brian and talk to him all the time about things, and it's good like that.
Brian, he's the homie.
He
It
is
feels
the
like
homie.
feels like I know him at this point. It feels like I might drive up to Poughkeepsie and see this guy. What's the day in the life of Peter Murray, student athlete? Give me the fall. Really, I want the spring, right? Because that's lacrosse season, especially on a game day. When do you get up? Do you still have classes on game day? Like, how does that work?
So in the spring, a lot of our games were Saturdays, which were good for us.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a rundown of a normal practice day, then I'll give you a rundown of the game day.
Perfect.
So we'll do a Friday, like day before a game. So last semester it was wake up. I would have an 8 a.m. that would go from 8 to 9:15.
Okay.
Then from there I would have a 9:30 that would go from 9:30 to 10:45. Then from there I would have an 11 o'clock class that went from 11 to 12:30.
So 3 back to back to back.
3 classes in a row. Then we would have our practice time, which is, what time did I say class end? 12:30. Yeah. So our practice slot would be 1 to 4, 1 to 5-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And we normally end around like 4:30, especially towards the end of the season. So in that gap, it's basically you eat in the morning and you throw a couple granola bars in your bag and go through practice. After that, I wouldn't have any classes on a Friday, but there were some days where instead of 3 in a row, I'd have 2 in a row, and I'd have a class after practice. Yeah. But on that specific Friday, so that'd be nice. So I just get to chill out before the game, things like that. And on a game day, we'll say we have a 1 o'clock game, means we're in the locker room 10:30, around there. Yeah. So you get a good sleep.
Yeah, that's not horrible.
I'd normally wake up 9:30. I always take down a peanut butter sandwich. That's it. Peanut butter bread.
Those are the best pregame meals.
That's all I do. I take those down, go to the locker room. I like to go a little early, just get my mindset right. All of our stuff is normally out, our uniforms, things like that. Put that on, and then you get a couple pregame, like lacrosse shots up, just everyone's kind of locking in.
Typical warm-up stuff.
Then you go out as a team, warm up. Next thing you know, it's the national anthem, and then you're kind of running out there playing. So game days are awesome, especially after a win, especially after you win a MAC championship. Like, game days are awesome.
So I'll jump to the MAC championship in just a little bit, but typical 1 o'clock Saturday game, that's not in the MAC playoffs or the championship game. What do you do after? You just kind of hang out, or do you go out and get rowdy with the boys?
So sometimes, my parents come to every game. So
really?
Yes, they've came. They haven't missed the game.
You were saying how it's only like a 2-hour drive. That's another perk. 'Cause if you played out in maybe down in even Maryland too, it could get 4 or 5 hours. They couldn't really make that trip.
Definitely, especially because I was playing this year. Like I got some good time.
So you played as a freshman.
I did. Yes, they wanted to come see me, and they wanted to make sure they didn't miss anything. Yeah. Especially like things like scoring my first goal and things like that. So normally, I'll go back, shower. They take me and my friends out to dinner. A lot of other parents come too. The parent group at Marist is awesome. So you have a little tailgate after, then you go out to dinner, and then normally it's kind of just like either the parents go out by themselves, and then the kids go out, and then we all just kind of
It's a Saturday night at college.
It's a Saturday night at college.
You know what happens there. And I'll ask this too, not only with the lacrosse players, who you said a lot of parents can go up and see them play, but the students in general too. Are most of them from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, or are they from all over the country and the world? What do you say?
So we have a lot of Long Island people. I've seen a lot of Connecticut, a lot of Long Island people. When it comes to lacrosse though, there's only 4 kids from New Jersey.
And 3 of them are from Caldwell.
3 of them are from Caldwell.
Yeah.
Yep. One of them's from Spring Lake. But we have kids on the team from all around the country. We have California, Texas, Utah.
Oh, really?
We have
Marist lacrosse is reaching all corners of this country.
All corners of the country. It's crazy. It's also crazy to think that they can't just drive home. They always need to take a plane.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I never wanted either. And clearly, especially because lacrosse is so much bigger on the East Coast than on, it going out further west of the country. It's almost like it just drops off a plateau with kids who play it. So, you talked about, after the game, I guess I got to ask, you played as a freshman, right? Did you know that was going to happen, or was it a surprise that you were going to start playing?
So I didn't know that it was going to happen. I originally came into Marist as an attackman, which is just like an offensive player.
Yeah.
And we had 2 fifth years that were in my position. So I was able to play well in the fall a little bit. Ended up getting hurt a little bit. I got a concussion, kind of sidelined me for a little bit. And then at the end of the fall meeting, my coach was like, we're going to move you to midfield because you can help us there. So about 3 weeks into the season, we're 0-3. We play Rutgers. We play Jacksonville. We played, I think, Binghamton and Bellarmine.
Tough schools.
Tough
especially
schools.
Binghamton and Rutgers, those big state schools.
So I bet 5 to 6 games into the year, I'm playing very well at practice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing against the ones. I'm playing very well, scoring a lot of goals. And it got to the point where my coach was like, we can't keep him on the sidelines.
Yeah.
So I started getting in a little bit. And then one day we ended up playing Siena, which was on ESPNU. It was one of our biggest games of the season. And I got put on the second line midfield, and I ended up having 2 goals. And then
is that the clip I was seeing all around?
Yes, that's that clip.
I'm definitely going to link that so everyone can see.
That's that clip, and I ended up playing pretty well that game. We ended up winning, and then I ended up being able to stay on that line up until that season was over, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I keep pushing off the MAC championship, but that's just really something I want to talk about at the end because it's obviously so special. But I don't want to boost your ego any more than I already have. But you one of the best high school athletes I've seen. We're in the same grade, we graduated together, and our school was pretty athletic. A lot of state championships, especially in the last 2 years. But how hard? What type of transition was it going from playing kids who were taking Algebra 2 the same day compared to 5th year 22, 23-year-old seniors on?
Well, first, thank you, but
of course
it's hard. It's faster. Everyone's faster, stronger, and how I put it originally, it's a bunch of other Peter Murrays playing against each other compared to kids that like the sport but not love the sport.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of competition, a lot harder hits. The game moves so much faster now, and that's what it almost makes lacrosse a job.
Yeah.
At the Division I level, which is compared to high school, you're kind of doing it for fun.
Yeah.
You're enjoying yourself. Like you said, you're going from Algebra 2 right to a game.
Yeah, it's like you get out of school at 3, your game's at 4. Like you lace on the cleats, throw on the jersey, and you're going.
And you're good, yeah. But here it's kind of like a job, and everybody takes everything seriously. It even gets to the point where there's fights in practice because everyone's so competitive.
Yeah.
It's so competitive because everyone's fighting for a spot.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to win. Nobody wants to waste their time at a school that's going to lose. So it's really competitive.
So you're talking about the competition too, but for the most part, both athletes too, and then normal students. Is Marist a school where you help each other out? Everyone looks out for everyone, or is it more like I want to get the best grade, I don't really care about you, or I want to start, I don't really care about how you develop? Give me the honest answer.
Definitely. I mean, I look out for a lot of the kids on the lacrosse team. I know some of my friends were struggling a little bit, and me and a couple of my friends were able to help them out, not only for their purpose, for the team's purpose and helping them stay on the team. And then, you have tutors and things like that, kids that don't play sports but are helping the athletes and things like that. So I think it goes a long way. But like when it comes to competition, that competitive edge, I always want the best grades. I always want things like that. But I would say that everyone does help everybody out.
And especially at a small school, I feel like that's so useful because like you said, not only do professors remember things, but students do too. If you have a class with someone, your freshman year, they're sitting next to you, maybe they miss and they say, hey, like, can I have your notes? And you're like, no, like, these are my notes. No way. If you need something from them, you never know. And they're going to probably say no if they're, I would say no. If you didn't give me your notes and then you want something from me, I'm going to say no.
Exactly.
Someone nicer like my girlfriend would say yes, but she's an angel. I'm not as much of a good person. But enough about that. The MAC championship, really, how does that compare to just other lacrosse achievements? I guess I'll ask that first.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's very different because that MAC championship, it's on ESPN, cameras, announcers, a lot of people, and that feeling that you have pregame is, I don't even know how to describe it. It's nerves, it's excitement, you're playing for that ring, you're playing especially as a freshman on that field. It's very nerve-wracking, and And it's hard to like even explain that emotion that was going on during that game, because you work your ass off from that fall. You work your ass off just for that 3-hour game, that 2-hour game. And like, it's crazy because the whole team has gone through so much, so many changes, injuries, things like that. And you're finally where you worked so hard to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to win that game. And there were some ups and downs in that game. We were able to, I don't remember the final score, but we were able to, I think, win pretty well, maybe by like 5 goals, something like that.
Decent cushion.
And it was good. It was awesome. And then throwing your helmet and your gear up into the air, getting that T-shirt that says MAC Champions, cutting the net down.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Really special experience. I mean, I warmed the bench for a state championship baseball team, and that was pretty fun. So I can't even imagine being a freshman playing on a Division I conference championship team. That's really what you work for. Like you said, it's almost like, obviously this doesn't really compare, but it's like getting an A in a class, like a really challenging class. You study all semester for it. You take that final exam and you ace it. It's a great feeling.
It's a great feeling.
Is that what you play for, really? Championships?
You play for championships. I've personally always been a team player. And, stats are nice, things are nice. I had 3 goals this year. Nothing compared to everybody on my team.
Yeah.
But in the end, you have a ring on your finger. And you and all your best friends have a ring on your finger for all the hard work you put in. So our coach brings it up all the time. We're playing for that MAC championship. Now that we have a target on our back, you keep trying to win that thing. And that's really what you're ultimately playing for, instead of, no one's going to go into the season and be like, I need 50 goals this year. I don't care if we win or lose, which is good. Everyone's kind of bought into the system and that idea of winning.
That's what a good team has.
Especially because we got a taste of it last year. So it should be a good couple years coming forward.
Yeah. And I guess a better way to phrase that question, because that wasn't that strong of a question. I'm self-critical. That wasn't a great question. But in high school, right, not only were you playing for the team to win a championship, to win a state championship, but you wanted to play Division I lacrosse. So to do that, you had to play well, not only in high school, but at showcases and what else not. But, lacrosse in college, it's not like baseball or football where there's a major league, right? But it's not, you're getting a $30 million contract to play baseball or football. Does your mentality change at all? Right? Because you don't have that next step after college, or is it kind of the same thing?
So I think the mentality changed a little bit, but it's also for the better, because I have 3 more years left of playing sports ever in my life.
Yeah.
And sports is what made me what made me who I am today. And 3 more years gives you a lot of motivation
to work your ass off,
because you're going to remember those 3 years for the rest of your life. And if I don't treat them well, I'm going to always have a regret about that, because it's not like I can just keep on playing sports. There's finally a strict timeline, and there's a strict ending, and I think that's a great piece of motivation for me, even because, there's like the small PLL league, but even things like that, like it's no major leagues, it's no NFL, it's nothing like that.
It's no Patrick Mahomes $500 million contract.
It's nothing like that.
Which, in its own right is crazy to think about. But you said after you won the MAC championship, you guys, Marist College, got into the NCAA Division I lacrosse tournament. I don't really know much about it. Obviously, the college football playoff, NCAA tournament for basketball, it's very self-explanatory. Could you just explain to, myself and people listening how to get in to the lacrosse tournament, and then obviously how it works?
So they pick the top 10. So there's 17 teams in that bracket.
Okay.
They pick
the NCAA one.
In the NCAA.
Okay.
They pick the top 10 teams in the country, and then if you win your conference, you get an automatic bid.
Okay.
So
that's what Marist had.
We were since we're like the lowest conference when it comes to power points, we were the 17th seed, which makes us play in a play-in game to play the number 1 seed.
Okay.
So we ended up, Delaware was the 16, and we ended up playing Delaware for that game against the number 1 seed Duke. And obviously Delaware is a phenomenal program, and they killed us that game. But the NCAA committee will do like the selection Sunday. We all wore our khakis and polos and got videotaped.
Yeah.
That was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think now that we won the MAC and we lost that first round of the NCAAs, now that provides a new goal.
You want more.
Yeah. Exactly. You want to win that play-in game. you want to win even against that number one seed and be America's team.
Yeah.
And I think you're never satisfied, especially when there's so many more games on the line when it comes to the NCAA tournament.
And if I didn't mishear, you said the number one seed overall was Duke in that tournament.
Yes.
Right. If you beat Duke, as you know, Marist College, a lot of people, everyone knows about it in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Long Island. But, if you're out in Washington State, odds are you probably haven't heard of it. But, you go on and beat Duke, say that were to happen, or any other one seed like Maryland, North Carolina, those lacrosse blue bloods, you're making national news, really, which obviously that's not the end goal. You want to win the whole thing. But, I mean, that...
You bring a lot.
That's some great motivation, I would think.
You bring a lot to the table. About 4 years ago, Marist beat number 3 Army.
And they're a good lacrosse school, right?
They're a great lacrosse school. Army was number 3 in the country. Marist was unranked at that time. Yeah. They beat Army. 2 of the top, like they were on ESPN Top 10. When I was getting recruited, I was getting told about that Army game.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And you're always looking for that next Army game and that next time to put Marist on that map and to express what Marist does and express that even little schools like Marist can beat bigger schools and can compete with the best.
Yeah. Right? Like everyone talks about still, I mean, what is it? 20, no, not 20, 15-ish years later, Appalachian State beating Michigan in the big house on the first week of the season. And I mean, lacrosse too, the same things. You don't remember the regular games. You remember those big upsets, those big rivalry wins. And I'm going to just kind of equate that to the classroom too. Like you remember the times where you worked your ass off to succeed. And I think that's the biggest lesson that as a student I've taken away from you today, Peter, that if working your ass off, it's hard, it's tiring. There's going to be some ups and downs, but if you put in the work, you're going to get great things out of it.
Definitely. Yeah. Hard work is all what it's about. My mom always tells me hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And she's told me that since I was in probably kindergarten, and that has stuck with me forever. I wear a wristband that says it. I wear on my necklace it says it. On my helmet it says it. And it just constantly reminds me that talent can only get you so far in life. But when you combine that talent that you already have with all of this hard work, it can make you a phenomenal person and a player.
And obviously that's life. That's some advice that I think everyone should take to heart. I'm definitely going to take it to heart moving forward. Peter, as we wrap up, is there anything else you want to add on about Marist as a school, your lacrosse career, any advice for anyone listening?
I mean, the best advice I could give is almost follow your heart. Do what you want to do, especially when you come into college and things like that. If I hated lacrosse, I would not be doing this. If I wasn't for school, I wouldn't be going to college. I think in the end, you need to follow your heart, because if you're going to be successful, you need to be happy. And I think, yes, I have such a crazy schedule. Yes, I have a lot of stress in my life when it comes to this, but I'm happy. And I'll do it for the rest of my life if I could. But I guess that's my best advice to give out to somebody.
Absolutely. And Peter, I keep keeping you here, but I forgot to ask you this. What is one sentence to describe Marist College?
Let's see. One sentence to describe Marist College.
It's tough. I know.
I'm going to think about this right now. I'm just going to say a great place to be.
I like it. Nice and simple.
Nice and simple. That could go a long way. I think that sentence can go a long way in many different aspects. And also,
exactly, like you said, many different aspects. You could interpret it so many ways, especially someone like you. You're very versatile, a great student. You said both semesters on Dean's List, and obviously starting as a freshman on the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, got that right again. I'm giving myself a pat on the back. Championship team, not an easy task. But again, if you're not happy, it doesn't really matter. And obviously, I don't even have to ask you this, but it seems like you're very happy with your decision.
Definitely. Very happy.
Peter, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time and coming on. I wish you the best of luck in your next 3 years at Marist College. I wish you the best of luck academically and on the lacrosse field. Again, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome.